The PS2 video game adaptation of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man film from 2002 is a bit of a weird oddity. On one hand, it made an attempt to move things in a new direction, while on the other treaded water and refused to let go of the past. Its graphics were next-gen at the time of its release, but its gameplay was almost completely recycled from the PS1 Spider-Man games. I have a feeling that a sequel to Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro might have been in early development before the decision was made to turn it into a movie license game instead. The similarities this game shares with its PS1 predecessors are most apparent in the outside levels, the big open areas. While you're web-swinging, Spider-Man's web doesn't appear to be attached to anything, just floating miraculously in the air. You need to find pickups to replenish your health and web meter, which there is only one of now. And by the way, doesn't make any sense because this Spider-Man had organic webbing and didn't need a web fluid. If you get too close to the ground in this game, you die, something that may have been excusable in the previous games, specifically the first one that gave an explanation for it in its story, but here it feels unacceptable on this new hardware. All of the web-related moves carry over from the PS1 games too. The stronger blast of web called the Web Bomb, the explosive area-clearing Web Dome, and the Web Fists that increase Spider-Man's melee damage. There was an attempt to add in more gameplay features though, and I can't ignore that. You actually have a wide variety of combos you can perform, unlike in the PS1 games, with more being unlocked as you progress through the game's story and collect glowing gold spider icons hidden in the levels. Web swinging has a default speed, but now you can adjust it by holding down the R2 button to go faster. Using this is necessary to beat some of the timed hostage and race sequences that happen late into the game. Spider-Man the movie implements this targeting mode, or camera lock function that you use to quickly fire web shots at flying enemies. Because this game is filled to the brim with various forms of them, it's kind of overpowered because you can abuse it to do a lot of damage very fast, but at the same time you do run out of web more frequently and are forced to temporarily retreat from combat to find more, though again, this incarnation of Spider-Man shouldn't have to do this, and it's something that will always be on the back of your mind. The auto-aim function with the web swinging has been removed, and in its place is one for web zipping, that you activate by pressing the right analog stick. Not only does it allow you to get past certain obstacles like steam coming out of pipes or flaming debris, but also quickly maneuver yourself in the game's new stealth-driven sections, which honestly are not very fun. You don't get to take out enemies, but rather have to avoid them entirely, sticking to the shadows. You need to collect pieces of door codes, or be guided by a scientist to mix chemicals. None of it is very exciting. Being that this game is on the PS2 and not the PS1, it gets rid of the directional pad as your means of controlling Spider-Man, in favor of analog control, which does not mesh well with this kind of gameplay. When you're playing the exterior levels, swinging around the city and running across rooftops, it's fine, because there is a lot more space at your disposal, and the camera is much easier to orient. But in the interior levels, the narrow hallways, the restricted stealth sections, this game can be a miserable bitch to play. Spider-Man the movie does a pretty good job adapting the origin of Spider-Man seen in the film. It starts off immediately following the death of Uncle Ben at the hands of a carjacker. Peter puts on his crude wrestling gear and goes out into the city to search for Uncle Ben's killer and enact his revenge, which happens during broad daylight in this game and not at night like in the film. The killer is the leader of the Skull's gang, and through interrogating one of the gang's members, Peter learns that the killer is hiding out in a nearby warehouse. He goes there, and after defeating him, realizes that he was the same robber that had stolen from the wrestling promoter that had cheated Peter out of his prize money that he had let escape earlier. The killer then dies when he stumbles and falls out of the warehouse's window. Shaken up by the ordeal, Peter remembers the words of wisdom spoken to him by Uncle Ben, that with great power comes great responsibility. Peter vows to use his powers to fight crime as the masked superhero Spider-Man. The first two villains you encounter in the story are Shocker and Vulture, who team up to rob a jewelry store. One of them escapes by air, and the other escapes in a van. Spidey goes after Shocker first through the subway and then into the sewers. At the subway station, you have to rescue security guards and civilians from Shocker's goons. Once you do, Spidey takes a few classic shots at Shocker, calling him Quilt Man and Padded Pete, before the villain uses his Vibro Smashers to damage one of the station's support pillars, endangering the life of a man below. This guy is one of the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever seen in a superhero game. How on earth could he not hear such a loud and powerful blast of energy like that, even if he's on his dated early 2000s era cell phone? Also, he's got all the room in the world to run and get out of the way, not just stand there like an idiot. Spider-Man's chase of Shocker leads into the sewers. This level is one of the more layered and extensive in the game, having you retrieve a few keys to open doors and press some switches. One of Shocker's goons even turns on a pressure valve to block your way to his boss, and then rips it off the wall, forcing you to hunt him down to get the handle back. Kinda fun and kinda annoying, just 'cause it's a bit like a maze and the asshole runs away from you like a little bitch. Eventually, you are led back to some subway tunnels and have to skillfully dodge Shocker's energy blasts. It becomes harder and harder to avoid them the further down the tunnel you go, and if you are hit, they do a lot of damage. But once you get to the end, you reach your final showdown with Shocker. He not only fires concussive blasts at you, but will also spin around in a tornado that sucks you towards him, so attacking him from a distance is the best course of action. Once you defeat Shocker, he tells you where you can find his partner. The first level of Vulture's section of the story is one of my favorites in the game, but it's also one of the more difficult. He has turned an old clock tower into his lair and nest of sorts. Your goal is to climb to the top of it, going around and around the giant stairwell. The higher you go up, though, the more obstacles that are put in your path. You have to avoid mines, thrown grenades, robots that chase you and explode when they get too close, and when Vulture gets annoyed at you, blows up a portion of the tower which catches fire and has a swinging pillar suspended in the air by nothing. When Spider-Man reaches the top, Vulture's workshop, he mentions how hard it must be for him to carry groceries up, one of his funnier quips in the game. The villain manages to escape though, and the following level is a chase through the city. Make sure you are speeding up and slowing down with your web swinging when you need to, and watch out for the electrical bombs Vulture detonates behind him, and the green feathers he launches at you. You will also need to repair damaged billboards and water towers along the way that Vulture uses to distract you. I like how this level has overcast, with some rain coming down, and in the next level, the boss battle against Vulture, it's during a thunderstorm. You can see lightning strike the Chrysler building, though the rain isn't as heavy as you would expect. So the next villain you encounter in the game is Scorpion. Oscorp has been developing a human performance enhancer that would become the Goblin formula, just like they do in the film. But unlike the film, they study Spider-Man, as he already exhibits what they want to achieve with the serum, and believe the secret to it may lie in his DNA. They send deadly robots after him called Hunter Killers that you need to destroy in aerial combat near the MetLife building. Eventually, a bunch of spider robots are sent out by Oscorp to track down and capture Spider-Man, but instead locate the Scorpion because of his similar arachnid DNA. I like Scorpion's design in this game, modeled after the Roxxon oil armor he had in the comics, and the same costume he had in the original PS1 game, but I don't really get his deal in this story. I'm assuming his origin is similar to the one in the comic books, involving J. Jonah Jameson and experimentation of some kind being done on him, but none of it is explained in the game. He's just hunted by Oscorp's robots, becomes extremely paranoid by it, and when Spider-Man tries to help him, he just believes he is out to get him too. Scorpion is easily the weakest villain in this game. The context, the reason for him to be here, is almost non-existent. His boss fight is decent though, taking place in the same subway station as earlier, with him jumping around and clinging to walls. You need to make sure to avoid his tail laser he charges up though, because it does crazy damage, can basically one-shot you if you aren't careful. Following your encounter with Scorpion, Green Goblin finally makes his debut in the game. We see Norman Osborn ousted by the Oscorp board members, taking things into his own hands and exposing himself to his untested super soldier serum. The transformation sequence is very similar to the one in the film, with Norman throwing Mendel Strom through the glass and stealing Oscorp's prototype glider and flight suit. Green Goblin attacks the World Unity Festival, and one of his pumpkin bombs weakens the balcony Mary Jane is standing on, causing her to fall. Thankfully, she lands on the only balloon the festival could afford, and you will need to swing to it quickly, pick her up, and drop her off on a nearby rooftop. I always found it funny how the balloon just falls as the two are talking, and you can hear the screams of the civilians below, but Spider-Man just ignores it.
You were great back there.
Thanks. I have to go deal with,
Oh, yeah. Thanks again.
No problem. Grab hold of a rogue balloon anytime. Rescuing damsels is my specialty.
Anyways, once Mary Jane is safe, your first battle with the Green Goblin is underway. Now, this game is always eclipsed by its far superior sequel that many still consider to be one of the greatest superhero games ever made. Even Spider-Man 3 gets more attention than it because of its obvious graphical enhancements, but Spider-Man the movie doesn't get the respect it deserves in relation to its execution of the Green Goblin. Not only does Willem Dafoe reprise his role here and give it his all, which is entertaining as fuck, but from a gameplay perspective, this may still be the best Green Goblin we've ever had in video games, as of the time I'm recording this. I know this game is old, but if you look at all of the Spider-Man games that have come out since its release, the ones that feature a Green Goblin on a glider, none of them offer the level of combat features this game does when fighting him. Not only can you shoot webs at him while he's flying around, but in some of the battles you have, the last two, he gets off his glider, which will come after you by itself with its machine guns if you dawdle too much. On the ground, much like in the film, Goblin is a lot stronger than Spider-Man, and you will get your shit kicked in by his devastating combos and chokeholds if you get too cocky. Not to mention, he still lobs a variety of pumpkin bombs at you that explode in a variety of ways. If you hold X near him while he's on his glider, you can also mount it and begin punching him until he fights you off, which is really awesome. All I'm saying saying is that it's pretty sad that this PS2 game provides a more engaging Green Goblin fight than 99% of the other Spider-Man games out there that feature him, even the ones that aren't Spider-Man focused.
I've offered you the world and you've thrown it away. Well, I'll cure you of your deluded ideals soon enough.
Save it. You're done.
That's what you think. I've arranged for a little parting gift. Throughout downtown are bombs have planted filled with a deadly gas. When they go off, well, use your imagination. You might be able to stop them, or you can try to stop me. The choice is yours, hero.
Anywho, after defeating Goblin at the Unity Festival, he begins fleeing just like Vulture did, and also like Vulture, distracts you by structurally weakening things you have to repair within time limits. Eventually, the Maniac offers to ally with you, just like he did in the film, but Spider-Man refuses, so Goblin reveals he has placed bombs all across the city, and gives Spider-Man a choice to either disarm them or go after him. And this brings us to one of the hardest sequences I've ever played in any superhero game, the level Race Against Time. It's not very long, but man is it infuriating. You have to disarm 4 rooftop bombs within a very strict time limit by following your compass. It seems easy enough, but you essentially have to be swinging at max speed between each one, and the faster you web swing, the less control you have over Spider-Man. If you swing into the path of any robots or spotlights, you're a sitting duck, or I guess spider, as they just hack away at your life bar within seconds with gunfire, turning Spider-Man into Swiss cheese. I hate this level, and I'm sure everyone who has played this game hates it too. Following Race Against Time in the PS2 version of Spider-Man the movie, you just move on to the next level in Green Goblin's mission chain. However, Xbox players got 2 additional levels in between, centering around Kraven the Hunter, that were exclusive to the console. Lucky bastards. Kraven is hired by Osborne to capture Spider-Man. He is offered money, but instead agrees to do it for free, living for the thrill of the hunt. The first level has Spider-Man navigating a series of deadly traps while poisoned that Kraven has set for him, and the other obviously features his boss battle, where Kraven temporarily becomes invincible by drinking potions. I think the Xbox version is the definitive way to play this game. Unfortunately, I don't own an Xbox, so any gameplay footage I use for this section of the video will not be my own, but I will credit the uploader. J. Jonah Jameson also appears in the cutscene setting up these levels. He doesn't appear in the PS2 version of the game at all. So after you disarm the bombs in the city and or take on Kraven the Hunter, depending on which version of the game you are playing, you confront the Green Goblin yet again, but this time have to deal with his pesky razor bats. The level is called the Razor's Edge, and you have to destroy 50 of them to succeed. You can fire quick web shots at them, or if you are low on web fluid, you can just destroy clusters of them using your cannonball kick. When all 50 razor bats are destroyed, you have to make your way to a nearby construction site to hide from the rest. They just keep coming, swarming you like bees. It's here where one of the weirdest and most confusing parts of the game happens, a visual mistake that always takes me out of the storytelling. After the Green Goblin flies away, Spider-Man picks up one of the broken wings of a razor bat, which looks humongous, much larger than any of the razor bats you had fought throughout the level. Later, in his room, Peter looks at the wing through a microscope to discover its Oscorp origins, that the Green Goblin is somehow associated with the company, but in the cutscene, the wing appears really small. I honestly don't know how this mistake was made. It's so strange. Anyways, this Oscorp clue is what leads Spider-Man into infiltrating the laboratory, having you play the annoying and clunky stealth levels I mentioned earlier. You uncover a top-secret weapon Oscorp is working on called the Super Mech, and have to put it out of commission by destroying all of the power generators in its hangar. This level can be tough, because if you get hit by the Super Mech's energy cannon, it kills you in one shot. Spidey reaches the office of Norman Osborn and finds files containing photos of Mary Jane. He knows the Goblin is going after her. Mary Jane gets kidnapped by the villain right out of her apartment, and you have to follow him in the most challenging chase sequence in the game, which feels like something stripped right out of the comic books. You need to move fast, and it will probably take you multiple attempts to learn which directions Goblin flies in. He's very erratic. And then finally, you have a final face-off with him on the Queensboro Bridge. Goblin unmasks, revealing himself to be Norman Osborn, begs Spider-Man to not tell Harry about what he's done, and attempts to kill Spider-Man with his glider, just like in the movie. Spider-Man dodges it, Norman is impaled, and then tragically dies. I always wondered what he was trying to accomplish with this. Yes, it would kill Spider-Man, but even if it did, wouldn't it then crash into Goblin anyways? It would turn them both into a shish kebab.
Tell Harry I'm sorry.
The original Spider-Man games on PlayStation had what-if modes you could play following the story that provided alternate universe scenarios, sight gags, and character cameos you could find. Spider-Man the movie doesn't have this, but in its place, it gives you the option to play as Harry Osborn, who finds his father's Green Goblin equipment. You can fly the glider around, use its machine guns, release razor bats, throw various pumpkin bombs, and of course, battle enemies on the ground. Honestly, it's very unique. What other Spider-Man game lets you do something like this? The levels play out the same as the ones you do with Spider-Man, but there is different context to everything, different lines of dialogue, and when you fight Green Goblin, the voice heard is much scarier and sinister than Norman's. I think it's supposed to represent the evil side of his father's personality, or the darkness trying to influence Harry or something.
This is where your ideals have got you. Come on, Osborn. Let's see what you're made of.
I've never played through the full game as Goblin though. Flying around is fun in the outside levels, but the novelty of it wears off pretty quick when you move on to the interior ones. They feel even more restrictive than they did playing as Spider-Man, and since Harry can't climb walls, trying to stick to the shadows in the stealth levels is damn near impossible, and not fun at all. Flying the glider makes that clock tower level with Vulture a breeze though. It's hilarious how quick you can beat it. Spider-Man the movie may not be that remarkable in terms of its gameplay. I think by the time the PlayStation 2 rolled around, gamers were expecting a lot more out of it, but I think what is here isn't half bad. It does a decent job adapting the events of the film. The stuff with Green Goblin, I would argue, is some of the best we have seen from the character in video game form, and the elements it does borrow from those original PlayStation games can be fun, because those games were awesome. But it was definitely a transitional period for Spider-Man games. This kind of gameplay was treading water, and in just a few short years following this, everything would be expanded upon. You'd be able to swing off buildings and walk around on the ground. Games would start following a more free-roaming structure, as opposed to being strictly level-based. Nothing would be the same again, really. I enjoy playing Spider-Man the movie and do revisit it from time to time, but I don't think it has aged as well as a lot of other Spider-Man games have. Not only is it just a movie licensed one, so there's a lot of stigma associated with it for that alone, but it also copy and pasted a bit too much from what had come before, without doing anything that new or extraordinary in return, which is why it's forgotten the most out of the trilogy. What are your thoughts on the game, though? Do you like Spider-Man the movie? Did you grow up playing it? Have you ever played it? Let me know in the comments section below. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to support the channel and ensure the creation of more content like this, make sure to subscribe, click that bell icon for notifications, and become a producer over on patreon.com/channel NerdGasm if you can. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.